Hello everyone, welcome to Event Digital class. So in today's class of computer organization, we will discuss one type of hazards, that is our data hazards. And in the previous lecture, I have already discussed about the hazards, what do you mean by hazards and some introduction to the hazards. And actually what do you mean by hazards? Hazards is one type of condition which delays the processing or the execution of a instruction, or it stalls the pipeline process. And there are basically three types of hazards: data hazards, instruction hazards and structural hazards. So in today's class we will discuss first hazard, that is our data hazard. Okay, so let's go to the slides. So data hazards means, as I have discussed in my previous lecture, that when we will not get the source operand when we need in the instruction processing, then that is called as our data hazards. Or you can say, if the data which we need to execute one instruction, and if that data is unavailable or it is absent in the memory or basically in the cache memory, then we have to bring that operand from the main memory. So at that point of time, the pipeline process has to wait for some clock cycles to get that data from the main memory to the cache memory. So that is the reason and that is the condition due to which the pipeline stalls for some period of time, or you can say for some clock cycles. So that is the data hazard condition. So we must ensure that the results obtained when instructions are executed in a pipeline processor are identical to those obtained when the same instruction are executed sequentially. That means if the data is unavailable, or you can say if the processing of or the execution of one instruction depends on the execution of another instruction, then that is also one condition of data hazards. Or here you can see that hazard occurs, this is let the situation where A is the source operand and B is also one operand, and here A value is updated by using this addition instruction, and the value of B depends on the value of A, and if it will use the value of A before updating this value, or you can say if this instruction is executed before this instruction execution, then it is okay, but this instruction is executed after execution of this instruction. So this instruction may need the updated value of A, and when we will get that updated value of A? After writing the updated value of A in the memory location or the register files, so that this instruction will collect that operand value from the corresponding registers. And here you can see 3 plus A means the instruction is decoded and the source operands are collected from the memory, and this is the destination part, and destination means this is the location or the register files where the value is stored. And here when this execution or this instruction is in execution phase, at that point of time this instruction will go for its decode phase, and in the decode phase of this instruction it needs the value of A, but we are not having the value of A in the memory location, because the value of A, or you can say the updated value of A, will be written into the memory in the write back stage, and that stage is performed after performing the execution stage. And we have seen in the pipelining that when one instruction is in its execution stage, then the next instruction has to be in its decode stage. It cannot go to its execution phase. Okay. So after doing the execution phase of this, then the result of this A will be written into the register file, and when this instruction is in the execution stage, at that point of time this instruction is in decode stage. So in the decode stage, this instruction may need the value of A, but when it needs the value of A, that value is not present in the register file, or you can say whatever the value is present in the register file, here one value, but that value is the wrong value. So we need this value, this updated value. So when this instruction can fetch this operand after the write operation is performed, that means after one clock cycle. So the instruction execution of this it depends on the execution of the instruction, that is this, and that's why the hazard occurs, or you can say when this second instruction needs the one source operand, that is A in this example, it has to wait until the write back stage is completed for this instruction 1. So that is the result of data hazards. And then here you can see, here is also 2 operands, or you can say here is also 2 instructions, and here is 2 operand, and that is destination. And these 2 operands C is used in both of these instructions, but the value of C used in this A and the value of C is used in this B, both are same, and the value of this C is not depends on the value of this. Okay, so there is no hazards. So here you can see, if the operand value is depends on the execution of another instruction, there may raise a data hazard. Okay, but if you only read the operands multiple times or by multiple instructions, then there may be no hazards. Okay, but when we perform write operation for an operand or in a memory location, and we need that memory location for read, then there may be a condition of data hazards. Okay, so there is 2 cases, and then when 2 operations depends on each other, they must be executed sequentially in the correct order. So here is the example, one is multiplication, another one is addition. So multiplication means let here R2 value, or you can say the content of register 2 is multiplied with the content of register 3, and the result is stored in this register 4. And then here you can see the content of register 5 will be added with the content of register 4, and then it will be loaded into the R6. Okay, so here is the pipeline example you can see for the instructions, one is a multiplication and addition. So here are the instructions, let only this instruction we are executing, and there are also some instructions which are following this. And then when this multiplication instruction is executed, then there is no hazards, that means there is no pipeline stalls, because every source operand whatever we need for executing that instruction is present. So it can perform the operations in a fine manner. And then when we will go for this addition operation or to execution of this addition instruction, then it will be fast, then there will be no problem. When it will go for decode stage, then it needs the source operand, that is our R4, okay, and here the R4 is our destination operand. Okay, so how we will get the destination operand, and here is our in the write stage, or you can say after performing the write stage, that value will be loaded in the R4. So we could not get the value of R4 in this clock cycle 3, because after execution or after executing the instruction, that means after performing the multiplication operation, then the result will be written. So that will be written in the 4th clock cycle, but we need that source operand in the clock cycle 3. But in the clock cycle 3, the addition instruction, it will not get the operand R4. So it has to wait until that result is written into the register so that it can collect. Then after writing the result or after getting the result is loaded into the register file, it is in the cycle 4, then it can decode the some other parts, or you can say the rest of the parts of the instruction in this 5th clock cycle. Then after performing the decode operation, and then it will fetch or it will collect the source operands from that register file, that is our R4, and then it will go for execution, and then it will go for write operation. And here you can see only this one instruction depends on the execution of this instruction, but there is no dependency takes place in between this instruction 3 with the instruction 2 or with the instruction 1, but the execution of this instruction 3 also delayed due to the delay in the execution of this I2, and that is raised by the delay in the execution of I1. Okay, and it is delayed for the 2 clock cycles, and then it is also delayed for the 2 clock cycles, because the decode unit is busy in decoding this instruction 2. So then it will not go for the decode, and it will be rest in the, it will be wait in the fetch unit, and then for this reason the fetch unit is busy with these I3 instructions. So the I4 instruction will be wait until this fetch unit is busy, and after getting free from this instruction 3, then the fetch unit will fetch this instruction 4. Okay, so here you can see this is the example of pipeline stalled by the data dependency between D2 and W1, and both of these, they are not performed in a single clock cycle, or it is not performed in a sequential manner. If the write operation will be performed in the 2nd clock cycle, then we can easily get our source operand in the clock cycle 3. Okay, but here that is not the case, so the pipeline is delayed for 2 clock cycles. Okay, so that is the concept of data hazards. And then how will resolve that data hazards? So let's see. So technique is our operand forwarding. So instead of from the register file, the second instruction can get data directly from the output of ALU after the previous instruction is completed. That means if the data, whatever we want or we need to execute one instruction, let in the previous example, that is our R4, if that data the processor will get directly from the execution unit or directly in the cycle of 3, here you can see if the processor will get the data in this clock cycle, then it can easily decode the instruction, and then it will go for execution of the instruction I2. But as the data has to be written first in the register file, then it will be collected by the instruction 2. So that is the case that is called as operand forwarding, and by using this technique, the second instruction can get data directly from the output of ALU after the previous instruction is completed, and a special arrangement needs to be made to forward the output of ALU to the input of ALU. So here is the diagram. Here you can see, here is one multibus organization concept we are using, and this is the data path and this is the forwarding path. So here we are using two sources, source 1 and source 2. So both are given to this ALU so that ALU can perform the operands. And we know that maximum 2 operands, source operands you can give to the ALU, okay, in any type of instructions. Then here is our register file, and from the register file the data will be collected, or the value of the source operand will be collected, then it will be loaded into these locations, and then the operation will be performed, and here is our multiplexers. We have already discussed about these operations in our multibus organization, you can go through that lecture. And then here is our forwarding path. That means after getting the source operands from this multiplexer or through the multiplexers, then execution unit or the ALU will perform the operations, and then it will load that in some temporary registers, let that is our RSLT. Okay, that means it is our result, and then from that result file the data is again forwarded to the ALU directly, and that ALU will use that result for performing or use that result for doing the operations in the next instruction. Okay, here in this example you can see, if we will store the executable result, okay, in any type of registers or result registers, and then that register will forward the result to the ALU again by using a forwarding path, then the data is available to the ALU in this clock cycle, so that it can easily collect the operands in the decode phase, then it will go for execution in the 4th clock cycle, then in the 5th clock cycle it can go for write, and then there is no stall. So this is the case, and this is the use of operand forwarding concept. Then next one is our how will handle the data hazards in the software. So let the compiler detect and handle the hazards by implementing the instruction which is called as no operations. And in the previous example we have seen that the pipeline stalls for 2 clock cycles, so that we are inserting 2 no operation instructions, so that the processor will do busy in executing these 2 instructions, and these 2 instructions are not dependent on the execution of these instructions. So after 2 clock cycles the result is in the memory and it can be collected by this instruction in the decode phase. Okay. So the compiler can reorder the instructions to perform some useful work during the no operation slots. So we can perform or we can introduce or insert any number of no operations in an instruction sequence, and we reorder the instruction sequence so that the pipeline, or you can say the processor, can use or it can operate some other instructions, or it can execute some other instructions when these NOP slots are entered. And then what is the side effects of that? Then the previous example is explicit and easily detected, as I have discussed. Then sometimes an instruction changes the contents of a register other than the one named as the destination. So sometimes the instruction may change whatever the content or whatever the data stored in the register which is not named in the as the destination, and then when a location other than one explicit named in any instruction as a destination operand is affected, so the instruction is said to have a side effect. And you can take an example of the auto increment and auto decrement, and in the auto increment case we are not giving any type of destination location name, but we are incrementing and we are decrementing the same locations or same register values. Okay. Or you can say, here is the example, you can take the stack operations, that means in the push and pop operations the auto increment and auto decrement automatically takes place. Okay, so that is the side effects. And then another is our conditional code flags. Here we are using the conditional code flags as a carry, and then here addition of R1 and R3, and here add with carry, that means with R2 and R4. So instruction designed for execution on pipeline hardware should have few side effects. Okay. Then here you can see, and another possible side effects, here you can see the addition with carry, and an implicit dependency exists between these 2 instructions through the carry flag. So this flag is set by the first instruction here, and then and used in the second instruction which performs the operations. That means whatever the carry is produced in this instruction, that will be added with the R2 and then it will be stored in R4. Okay. And then instruction data side effects gives rise to multiple data dependencies, and then which leads to a substantial increase in the complexity of the hardware or software needed to resolve them. Okay. So, we have to implement the pipeline in such a way that we are having very few side effects. Okay. So, this is all about our today class. In today class, we have discussed about data hazards, and we have discussed that how the data hazards will be takes place and how we will detect the data hazards. That means when the data dependency occurs or the source operand is used by some other instruction, when we need that source operand in another instruction, that is our data dependency concept. Okay, and when that takes place, the pipeline stalls for some clock cycles, and as the pipeline stalling depends on the unavailability of the data, so that it is called as data hazards. And how we will handle that means there is a technique called as operand forwarding, so that we are not storing the result in the register file, else we are directly forwarding the result which is produced by the ALU again by using one forward path to the ALU, so that ALU can use whatever the result produced in the previous instruction in the next instruction. So, that is our operand forwarding concept. And how we will handle the multiple, that means by inserting no operations. Okay, that means when we insert no operation instructions, and when that slot is invoked, at that point of time the processor can execute some other instruction, or it can collect the operands due to which or the unavailability of which operands the data hazard occurs. And then what are the side effects? Here you can see there are some examples. That means when let's example is our stack. That means when we will perform the push and pop operation, automatically in the same location, let that is our top, the top location is automatically incremented and decremented. Okay, and this is all about our data hazards. In the next class, we will discuss about some other hazard concepts. Till then, keep watching. Thank you.